What I'd like to talk about today is coping skills, what coping skills are and how they work. Kind of the idea is if you know what you're doing and you know why and how something is working, you'll do it better. And Einstein said you can't change a problem with the same mind that created it. I think what we'll talk about in here is you can't change your responses with the same brain that created those responses. So what I want to end up with is a coping skill that makes sense to you and you know how to use. We all have problems. We get anxious, we get scared, we avoid things, we overreact. Problems actually aren't the problem. We all have problems all the time. The issue is how we approach our problems. What do we do? So that's what this talk is going to be about. What I'll use with this to kind of demonstrate is the spark plug. Everybody knows what a spark plug is. All it does is spark. That's all it does. It doesn't know where it is. It functions just as well in Virginia as it does in Alaska, as it does in Antarctica. And it doesn't care, it doesn't matter to the spark plug what time it is. Is it 3 in the afternoon? Is it 1962? So it doesn't matter if you're 33, 3, or 53. You have a part of your brain that is just like a spark plug. It has one function and one function only. It's to ensure our survival. It has to recognize any threats to our sense of safety. Any threats to our sense of safety. And because it's a spark plug and operates like a spark plug, all it does is it sets off an alarm system. It basically gives us a lot of energy to either fight, flight, or freeze. So you've probably heard it as your limbic system. So we all learn things that make us feel unsafe. We learn from the beginning. Spark plug never forgets what those things are. So when we all have symptoms, this is what's going on. We remember times that made us anxious, that we tended to avoid or overreact. So the problems that we have today are connected to the spark plug part of our brain. So this is how the spark plug works and how automatic it is. There was a psychologist in California did a study with combat vets. He put them in an fMRI, which is a machine will tell you what part of your brain is functioning. And he would show these combat veterans just in a subliminal moment on a computer screen, this menacing face. But then it would change to a smiling face. And he would ask them, what did you see? And they'd all say, I saw a smiling face. And he'd probe, you sure? You see anything else? No, that was all. The subliminal moment that the menacing face was there, their spark plug lit up. And they didn't even recognize it themselves. That's how powerful this is. It is just there to ensure our survival. There's a woman in Missouri that did a study with some trauma victims. They weren't even combat vets. They were car accidents, assaults, things like that. In the beginning of her study, she put them in an fMRI, showed them a threatening picture, something that was dangerous or unsafe, and of course their limbic system or their spark plug, their fight or flight, I'm going to use those terms interchangeably, they lit up. That's the part of their brain that lit up. So in technical terms, that's what was getting blood flow and electrical activity, was going to their spark plug or their limbic system or their fight or flight system. That's where electrical activity and blood flow went. And after 10 weeks of this therapy, their prefrontal cortex, this part of their brain, the part of their brain that makes good decisions, lit up. That was the effect of the therapy. It changed how these people responded to problems. They no longer responded from their spark plug or their limbic system or fight or flight. They responded from the part of their brain that thinks. We had to know tens of thousands of years ago whether that saber-toothed tiger was looking at us like a McLunch or not. And we had to react faster than we could think. And that's what this is all about. We had to react faster than we could think. So when we're triggered, when we have symptoms, when we're anxious, when we're underreacting, overreacting, avoiding, whatever it is, that's the time when your limbic system or your spark plug or your fight or flight system is functioning first. If you think of a train, this part of your brain becomes the locomotive, and the thinking brain is just the caboose. Where does the caboose go? Any place the locomotive takes it. So that's why we overreact or underreact. We say things that think are the right thing to say in the moment, but later we kind of come back to a different way of being in ourselves, and we think, what was I thinking? I wish I hadn't said that. Those symptoms, that happens when our alarm system gets ahead of our thinking brain. So how do we change that? And this is a real simple coping skill. It's just a 3-step coping skill, but it helps to know what you're doing and why. The first part is you have to decrease the electrical activity and blood flow in your limbic system. You have to decrease that. You have to take you have to take the locomotive off the tracks. And you do that by breathing. And so the first step in the coping skill is what I call 5-second breaths. And it actually helps if you use your fingers. Research has shown that when you use your fingers to do this, it has a better effect. 5-second breath is as simple as it is. It's 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. And it goes like this. So you do 3 of them. 3 5-second breaths in, and on the exhale, you're relaxing and slowing down. That decreases blood flow and electrical activity to your spark plug. But then you want to increase electrical activity to your thinking brain. What is your thinking brain that your spark plug doesn't have? Words. Your thinking brain has words. So the first part of the grounding skills is to have a phrase that grounds you in the moment, that you can say to yourself, I'm actually safe right now. I'm not under threat. I can handle what's going on. I think of that as a grounding phrase that kind of brings you back to the moment and out of the fight or flight. And the more that you have that phrase memorized, because you can't think of those things in the moment because your spark plug is still flooding your body with energy. So you have to memorize that. So you have a memorized phrase, I'm safe right now, I can handle this, this will be all right. But then we all want to come from our best self, not our reactive self. So we want to come back to who we want to be when we're being tested. And we're all tested all the time. So I ask people to come up with 2 value words that define who you want to be, who you choose to be when you're being tested, when you're being triggered. I want to be calm and steady. I want to be thoughtful and forgiving. I want to be caring and compassionate. I want to be steady and firm. I want to be... You're the only person that can define what those 2 words are. And that's the third part of the coping skill. So the 3 steps are, you do 3 5-second breaths using your fingers. And then that decreases blood flow to your spark plug brain, and it decreases the energy in your body. And then you have to increase your thinking brain blood flow and electrical activity, and you use words to do that, words you've memorized. I can handle this, I'm safe right now, I'll figure it out, it'll be all right. I want to be somebody who's steady and calm. I want to be somebody who's thoughtful and compassionate. I want to be somebody who... And you have your own 2 words. And you don't respond to the situation until you're coming from your heart and soul and not your temperament. Robert Bly had a famous phrase I use quite often, Father's temperament drowns out his teaching. And we all know what that feels like when your energy gets ahead of your thoughts. And this is a way to come back to both your thoughts and your values so that you've changed the brain that you're solving the problem with. You can't solve the problem with the brain that created the problem, and that's when your spark plug is the locomotive and your thinking brain is just the caboose. You change your brain when the thinking brain becomes the locomotive. And the spark plug just gives you the energy to do that. It's the caboose. So that's a coping skill, and it helps to know what you're doing and why. If you said to somebody, well, when you're upset, just take a breath and count to 10. Well, actually what will happen is they'll wait 10 seconds and pretty much say or do what they were going to do the first place, right? Some version of it. They really haven't changed anything. The purpose of this coping skill is to change your brain so you operate from your best self, not your reactive self.